Welcome to Idea to Investment, the podcast where we dig into the exciting world of entrepreneurship and investment. We tell the stories of the tech creators doing innovative work and the investors who back them up. Along the way, unveiling the fascinating journey from the birth of an idea to scoring crucial investment. We'll highlight the voices of entrepreneurs, showcasing their grit and creativity, all while gaining insight from the investors who believed in those dreams. Get ready to be inspired, stay informed, and stay tuned as we explore the awesome collision of ideas and investments.
Hi, my name is Trevor Greenway. I'm the co-founder and CEO of interVal.
Hi, my name is Ken Eastwood, and welcome to Idea to Investment. Imagine you've spent your entire working life to build something you expect to provide you with the equity to live comfortably through your retirement, only to find out it's not worth nearly what you thought it was. Value is one of the most important pieces of data any organization can have, but it's not always clear, accurate, or accessible. That's where interVal comes in. Once again, here's interVal co-founder Trevor Greenway with his investor pitch.
So interVal is an automated discovery tool. And what that means effectively is we work exclusively with accounting firms, banks, and wealth advisors. And we believe that there is benefit to both them and their business owners being constantly aware of the business's underlying business health and value and the opportunities that they can have to add to that value in a proactive way. We really believe that data can do a better job of making the phone ring between advisors and business owners. Business owners are busy and their advisors are busy, and they're both fighting capacity problems in the labor market right now. Our job is to bring them together around a common set of data and information so that they can both make better educated decisions that build more value for the business and the advisors that serve them.
Okay, good stuff. So if I'm hearing the pitch correctly then, Trevor, was the problem that existed, that as far as you saw it, that this data was not readily available to businesses, or was it just kind of scattered across different enterprises? What was the initial problem that you were looking at?
It was a bit of both, and admittedly, we fell into the problem by actually living it. Our background before interVal is myself and my co-founder actually ran an M&A firm. So we were in mergers and acquisitions and actually helped business owners better understand their value long before they were looking to leave. So we were almost like a reverse M&A firm in the sense that we didn't want to work with anybody that was less than 2 years away from leaving because we believed that that was too late. So we sought to really make feedback to business health more readily available to business owners because they get head down running the business without really understanding, am I creating real value? It's typically, am I making payroll? Am I making my revenue targets? And they never really stop to understand, am I building actual enterprise value? And so we sought to solve that. And we did quite well for a number of years in the consultancy space. And then we realized that we kept being the bearers of bad news. We kept speaking to all these business owners. We kept getting referred in by accounting firms and banks, ironically, to people that ended up becoming interVal's customers. And we get referred in, and we kept giving these small business owners bad news in the sense that they thought their business was worth something. And when we were initially doing that diagnostic, we had to tell them it was worth a fraction of that. And I vividly remember a husband and a wife in Calgary speaking to me, and the wife was crying, and she said, I'm not mad at you. You're the first one to tell us the truth. But how come other people that also had access to our financial information didn't tell us that this was the case? And unfortunately, it was because they didn't ask and didn't pay for it. And so it made us realize like this kept happening. And we said, well, what if we could democratize access to business health feedback? Just like when I step on the scale, I don't always like the number, but it typically tends to drive better behavior for me. And I tend to make better decisions, at least for a period of time. And so we said, if we could give that to business owners, maybe that would be powerful. And so we decided maybe there's something here. So we went back and started talking to our referral sources, accounting firms and banks, and said, what if we could give this to everyone and also give you visibility to how healthy they are? And they said, well, that would be massive because you'd solve for a capacity problem that right now we just literally don't even have the time to do it. It's not that accountants couldn't have figured out what we did. They could have figured it out too. They just didn't have time to do it. And so really we're kind of solving two capacity problems. The business owner didn't have the capacity to figure out how they were performing, and their advisors didn't have time to go and figure it out either. And we solved for both of those by bringing them together.
So I'm sure this was born from a big part having those conversations with small and medium business owners and saying to them, boy, I really wish I could have given you this information 5, 10, maybe 20 years ago.
Exactly, right? Is you just talking to them is what made
So
it, is what really what made it click.
I do want to back up a little bit because I think it's high time we also made mention of your co-founder and acting as CFO, Colin Semenier. What is, I mean, even pre-working in mergers and acquisitions, what was your backgrounds?
So my backgrounds were in sales and finance typically. Colin was very much, Colin is absolutely brilliant. Is finance and banking is his background. So Colin actually helped build the underlying algorithm around the platform, based it on chartered valuation principles. So it is built with accounting principles in mind. And then we took it very much down the path of, we wanted to make sure that we prove that we had a deep domain expertise. So we have a number of accountants on staff. We have a charter business valuator on staff. It's really important that we're credible, and we're not formalizing, formal valuations. And we're not taking formal valuations and making them automated. We're taking valuation concepts and business feedback and making that automated. But it still has to be based in real information and real principles in order to be credible. So the business owners and their advisors can make decisions using it as fact.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you is there an infrastructure that also that kind of validates that information for you that you need to be a part of?
In the sense that, so we've built it with a variety of different models. We actually run multiple valuation models all at the same time. Again, they adhere to CBV principles in the sense, we're not CBV accredited, and frankly, we don't want to be. There are formal valuations experts across the country that do unbelievable work and will continue to do that. There are times when that is necessitated. It is just our belief that using those concepts and being in line with that. And we've been blind tested by a number of our large partners. We have national accounting firms that are our customers. So we've been blind tested against a number of valuation reports to ensure accuracy, but there is a bit of an art to that, right? And, we're really just taking the formal data, harnessing it in a way so that we can understand, is this business healthy? What might it approximately be worth, so that they can make strategic decisions about their future?
Okay, clearly, even from a business outsider, I can see the value in this. So at what point along your process did you think, okay, if we want to take this to the level that we need to take it, we're going to have to find some funding. We're going to have to look for outside investment. At what part of the process for you did that take place?
It was when we started, we kind of had a little bit of an unfair advantage in the sense that we weren't just like, holed up in our parents' garage trying to develop some solution thinking, hey, maybe the market will like this. It was when we really started talking to our prospective customers who used to be our referral sources when we were in the M&A game. So we already had great relationships. We had already they were the ones that kind of made us have the aha moment in the first place. So what we did is we formed what we called product councils, where they'd actually give us live feedback as we were building the platform. So we'd say we put a group together and said, this is going to be the use case that you're going to use it for. Help us understand whether or not this is powerful, impactful, potentially monetizable, how this might work for you. Because if we were going to make mistakes, we wanted to make them quickly and with real feedback, not with our assumptions. And so once we got to the end of that process, it increased our conviction, right? We began knowing that, okay, we know this is solving a real problem because they've literally told us. And then some of them said, hey, when this is done, like, we will sign up as a customer. So once we kind of had some pre-agreed commercials before the platform was even done, then we realized, okay, we're onto something. You don't have product market fit yet. That's a misnomer that you think you have it just because you have customers. But we knew we were onto something, and our customers were telling us that. And that's where we believed, okay, it was time to raise some capital to pour some gasoline on the fire.
It occurs to me that you actually are in a really unique position, an enviable position, probably of many small and medium businesses, where your raison d'etre is, creating valuation, that you can actually, tangible valuation, which is such a valuable thing when you are going to an investor, So were you able to kind of use your own tools on yourself as you were approaching investors?
It's an excellent question, and you'd be stunned how often I get asked that. We actually weren't, and the irony in all of this is that traditional valuation principles and business health kind of models and key ratios, they don't really play well with fast-growing startups, because what fast-growing startups can raise at in terms of evaluation and what they're actually worth are very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because raising capital is designed, on a future state belief that you're going to reach a certain level. You couldn't sell to a private equity firm for the valuation you can raise at as an early stage company, because you actually have to have the underlying business fundamentals that will create that cash flow for them. So it's a little bit of a misnomer that, in valuations and raising capital that you're actually worth that. You're not. People are just speculating that you will easily be worth that by the next round.
Right. So talk about this however deeply you feel comfortable, but how did it play out? Did you end up with a large number of medium investors, a single large investor that was interested, or was it kind of spread across those groups that were former clients of yours?
It was really early on was kind of your friends and family and local kind of high net worth individuals. We didn't really end up in the traditional kind of angel space in Southwestern Ontario. And it wasn't on purpose. It just early on, we seemed to get some traction by some lead investors, some local high net worth individuals that were looking to really kind of round out their portfolio. We were born in COVID, but during COVID, the tech market was incredibly frothy, right? Valuations were through the roof. People were raising at wild valuations. And we didn't push back on that. We just decided not to kind of fall prey to that, because we believed that if the market corrected, which all signs were pointing to the fact that it was going to, then that would create a problem for those companies. That for the moment, you'd be able to feel good about the fact that you raised at a crazy valuation, you'd puff your chest out. But, over time, that would probably, you'd end up paying for it. So we decided to go more of the conservative approach, which was not going to get institutional money, getting local high net worth, and really just kind of, working hard to try and get the story out there and see if we could build some momentum.
I sense that was the value of having Colin alongside you was really showed itself in that process too, didn't it?
Certainly. I think it was definitely Colin's acumen, no question. And I also think it was more so our background's not coming from the industry, because I think a lot of people that have been in tech over time, they just kind of assume that's the way the game gets played. Like, you raise it the biggest number you possibly can. And we kind of took more of a macroeconomic view and said, well, yes, perhaps, but like, what happens if, that pretend valuation that you've now set for the future gets wiped out overnight to no fault of your own? And, that ends up being quite problematic.
So I'd hate to give the impression that, everything went, it sounds like, you just went step by step along this progress toward success. But anybody who has been involved in a tech startup knows that it is fraught with pitfalls. I'm sure you had your share. What were some of the bigger ones that you encountered and managed to overcome?
Oh yeah, it certainly was not a straight line. It's a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I tell people I had hair when this all started. It honestly, the tech space and tech startup it's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems. And I think kind of maintaining that middle ground is exceptionally important from a framing of what you're up against. There are times where you wonder, do I have product market fit? There are times where you say, like, why did I do this? And I think it's important that founders know that, like, that's pretty normal. I didn't know it was normal. I'm a first-time founder in this kind of a company. Obviously, I was a founder of an M&A company, but it is challenging. There are times where you wonder, the customer turns and leaves, and you say, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? And then you realize that, early on, you're going to fail. Sometimes you just got to make sure you fail fast and learn from it. And, it's scary at times. I thank my wife and for her patience in all of this. And I thank all of our investors for their belief in us, because I'm sure there were times where it didn't look like we were going to amount to much. And we still may not, but we've done, I think, the really hard part, but it's still hard. And I think you have to acknowledge that that's okay. And you got to have something a little wrong with you to be okay with it. But I think I got just enough wrong with me to be okay with it.
So a little bit wrong with you, and a pretty thick skin to be able to take a hit, get back up, and stay true to the vision of what you see happening down the road, correct?
Definitely. And I think one of the things that I saw it early on, and Colin did as well, was I like to learn from other people's scars as opposed to cut myself. So I tried to surround myself with people that had been through this journey. So even in our continued kind of fundraising journey, more recently, we brought on some seasoned tech founders that had built their own companies and are now investing personally. and wanted to better understand how they navigated certain markets. And we're now expanding to the US. So we brought on a couple of US tech founders that had scaled inside of accounting technology in the US. So again, trying to learn from people that have done it. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know what you don't know and make sure that you backfill appropriately.
That must be encouraging too, because getting quality people like that to come on board, uh, to me, is an indication that they see future value. I mean, few of these people are going to give up, what they've got going on to join you on this road unless they see something valuable down the road. What do you see down the road for interVal?
This next probably 12 to 24 months is pretty critical in our future. We just actually closed a round of funding of $2 million that is designed to really help us continue our scale. We pushed in a very kind of conservative way. We didn't spend a boatload of money on sales and marketing early on. Many people didn't know we existed, and we did it on purpose because a lot of companies die just trying to almost market themselves to credibility. And we said, well, maybe we can just partner ourselves to credibility with customers. And then once we see leading indicators of future success, we can begin to raise money on that. And that's kind of what we did. But now the proof is going to be in the pudding is now when we do, pour some gasoline on the fire, as I said previously, to make sure that those leading indicators were indeed true. And it was indicative of the success that might come, especially as we expand into the US market. This will be a big, kind of, telling sign for us as to where we're going to go next and how big the scale can be.
Yeah, and at risk of losing more hair, what's the pressure like? You get, a $2 million investment, you start to get some larger investments. Those come with expectations that there will be return on investment. Do you feel that? Do you carry that?
I think anyone that says that they don't is lying,
Yeah.
because you do, and not to the point where you let it paralyze you, but you have to be mindful of the fact that I work for the shareholders, and my job is to return capital to them. Now we have an unbelievable group of shareholders in the sense that they believe in the vision and they're fine with things are not always going to go in a linear fashion, and they haven't yet, and they probably won't anytime soon. But as long as they continue to feel communicated with, they're active participants as shareholders, trying to drive the company in the right direction that we all agree on, they tend to be both collaborative, patient, and that's been great thus far. But of course, you bear the weight of that. You feel that pressure, and you probably should to a degree.
Yeah, you're right. I think if you don't, then clearly you don't care enough to take this to the place where it needs to be. Trevor, it's been a fascinating conversation. And I want to end on kind of a unique question that I like to ask each of the founders, which is, if you had a time machine and both you and Colin could jump in this time machine and go back to maybe even when you were before interVal was even a thought in your head, what's that one thing that you would tell a slightly younger Trevor and Colin that might have changed this drastically for you?
I think, and it's not something that I would necessarily take credit for. I have a mentor of mine that told me this. He said, trust your instincts. You're going to be right a hell of a lot more than you're wrong. And if you believe that your instincts are good, that you are entrepreneurial, that you are savvy, that you are a problem solver, when the markers are flashing, act. And if you're going to fail fast, but act. And I think that we probably had the markers or the makings of interVal sooner. We just didn't read the signs or had a lack of confidence in what it is that we thought that we could do to really change the way the industry worked. We've got there. We still are, obviously very well positioned, have some amazing big logos that people recognize, but I think we could have got there sooner. And I think that that's my biggest learning. And I try and remember that every day in how I look at problems and things that pop up is trust your instincts far more. I think too often we're looking for all of the information to be present to feel comfortable taking a leap. Risk taking is not for the faint of heart, but neither is startup life. So you might as well flex the muscle.
Love it. Trevor, again, it's been a joy talking to you and learning about the process. And I look forward to seeing where interVal goes in the future. It sounds like you've got some very bright things ahead of you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Ken. It's a pleasure meeting you.
My thanks to Trevor Greenway, co-founder of interVal, for joining me. Idea to Investment is made possible by the support of Tech Alliance of Southwestern Ontario. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Alliance and the resources available to entrepreneurs and startups, go to techalliance.ca. My name is Ken Eastwood. Thank you so much for joining me.